Yeah, that's the one. That's what we're looking at. So let's just look at some of the basic elements in this article right here. I've highlighted, some of the things that might be of particular interest. It says all the acts of an artificial person, such as a corporation or municipal corporation, are included in three general classes, legislative, judicial, executive, and so forth. Each of the acts of a corporation involve their own separate liabilities, so each act must be separately insured, and that to the degree which each act is separately probable to create an injury.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, each general class of actions is regulated by a set of insurance policies or bonds, the character of which is peculiar to that class of actions, or what I'm calling the scope of action.
Yeah, interesting. Not
So,
surprised though. Yeah, but interesting.
yeah. So again, let's say that, for instance, a city or county or whatever says, we're just going to go and buy an umbrella, an umbrella insurance policy for our whole deal here.
Right.
Okay, that don't work. That's what we point out here. That don't work because again, you got policemen over here, you got firefighters over here, you got nurses over here, and you got all these different things, which have to be, each scope of office has to be bonded separately. That's the point. And so this crazy business about state risk management or being self-insured is nothing but pure BS. It don't work. They're trying to get around that by doing that. So anyway, let's go on a little bit here. Let me see what other points. Like I say, we're not having a whole lot of time to go over a lot of this. So I'll just read some of these highlights that I picked out as I was looking over this earlier. It says bonding a municipal corporation is gambling on official behavior, and each application has its own odds for success and its own terms of payoff.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay, here we get into. It says the purpose of bonding is to provide redress for accidental damage and to prevent deliberate negligence, deliberate damage, criminal malpractice, for instance, malfeasance. Civil malpractice bonds are designed to protect an agency from its own officers.
Right.
Think about it. Civil malpractice and civil malpractice bonds are bonds against situations that might occur in statutory construction, in the enforcement, or in the enforcement of blah blah blah. So again, we're talking about something that's an accident that has caused an injury to some party. And like you point out, the insurance policies is to protect the agency from its own employees.
Exactly.
So I mean, you really have to get some of this stuff going on here. It says a misuse or misapplication of a statute or of a public office is deemed civil by a bonding company if it is accidental, and is deemed criminal by a bonding company if it's deliberate or the results of gross negligence. So an insurance company is not going to pay off on the criminal act of one of the employees or something like that.
Right. Nor should they.
So let's say, for instance, we got these 10,000 indictments running around out here, and they all say, well, we're bonded, go see the insurance company for what we did. And the bonding company's going to say, no, we're not going to pay off on that.
Right.
You did a criminal act.
Exactly.
So the insurance company's not going to pay off on that. Again, they went beyond their scope of office when they created a criminal act.
That's what the point was I was making before. Exactly.
You can't bond a criminal act. Right. You can't do it. And
so they're in big trouble. They're in big trouble.
That's why I have emphasized that each employee of a corporation, be it a government corporation, a private corporation, or whatever, it has a scope of office. Here's what you can do. Right. If you do something other than this, our insurance will not cover you.
So you're saying,
unless it's a Good Samaritan thing, like we had talked about in the other interview. But let's not get into the Good Samaritan
right,
stuff now.
right. But so in other words, so for a judge who's sitting there, if he did not follow the law and created harm that resulted in, look, there's the Elrod versus Burns, which was a very well-known case decided by the Supreme Court, which says if your freedoms, your constitutional freedoms, notice I said freedoms, are if you're denied your freedoms, it constitutes automatic irreparable harm. So when these people commit irreparable harm against people, then you have you know, a liability, obviously.
Yeah. So what we've talked about in the past is that where we run into these situations with these corporations where they have one of their employees or officials who are acting outside of their scope of office, which is not covered by an insurance policy. What do? We have to take a commercial remedy, just like we did against that judge for that $3 million up there in northern Utah.
So judges, you can use commercial liens against it. See, everyone thinks that a judge has.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Impute.
Hey, I was putting in that $7 trillion lien against all them judges and everything.
Right. They're supposed to have judicial impunity. So.
Only if they're acting within their scope of office.
Right.
They have no immunities if they do a criminal act.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, let's go on here and see how there's more. Like I say, we don't have time to spend a lot of this.
No, it's just important, these concepts may be new, and it's important to just put them into context for people. You said maybe 90% of our viewers may have been, subjected to the.
Oh, I'm sure they have been.
Or 99%. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It says only that government which can be sued by the public or whose officers can be sued by the public can be made to answer for the public need for redress of grievance. But you're going to have to sue them in their own courts. So how's that going to work out? That's why we have to take commercial remedies in a lot of these situations.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Municipal bonding is intended for accidental misuse of power. Bonding is not intended to protect officials in the deliberate misuse of power, that is, the commission of criminal acts. Now, get down to this part. Because, if they do act outside their scope of office, which comes out from under their insurance, they may be made to surrender their own personal property for their own unlawful acts. That's why, from time to time, people say, well, this has happened or that's happened and so forth. And so I say, okay, we'll just ask the judge, are you acting within your bond?
Right, but this is also why you see doctors and lawyers put their assets in the name of their wives, spouses.
Yeah, let me finish, because if they're not acting under their bond, then the next question is, so you just tell them, so what you're saying is that you are personally liable? I've had people go into court and just tell the judge flat out, if you act that way, he said, I'm going to have your house, your car, your retirement, and your wife if she's a good cook. Because, again, they're acting on their own. They're not acting under the scope of office. There's no insurance to cover them, you see. Now, again, here down, it mentions 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, which talks about the conspiracy, against people. And those are the very statutes that Hartford Van Dyke used in his original lien against that federal judge and those prosecutors.
Right.
Therefore, all prosecutors and other supporting officials must be bonded. A prosecutor who does not prosecute a malfeasance official becomes a malfeasance prosecutor who thrusts the public at the bonding company. And again, it goes into personal resources here. Mm-hmm. See, that's there's a lot to this, and I don't want to beat this to death because we're almost coming to the end of our time here.
Right, but this executive order, though, for me, I see that this executive order is giving the president the ability to do that, go after the assets of these people, because he knows they
acted outside of their bond.
That's right. I'm trying to tie it all together. This is what we're seeing happen. You're very timely, Winston, always with your presentations, always. Never a coincidence, Winston. You're always right on it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, but what I'm trying to point out to the viewers is that to have a good foundation in your understanding because we're in turmoil right now as we transition. If you look at it's called chiasmus. In other words, in some of the Hebrew literature, it's called chiasmus, where it's kind of like an hourglass. The hourglass comes down, then it goes back out again. And it's similar to the birth of a baby. The baby finally gets ready to deliver or come out. It has to pass through that chiasmus point right there, and then it goes this way. So you have the baby come down to the birth canal. There's a great deal of turmoil that happens at that point, and then once the situation, is once it's born, then it does this. You see, so right now, folks, we're at that. We're walking through the valley of death. Indeed. And we expect to come out the other side of it. That's what we're expecting. But what's going to happen to you when you come out to the birth canal and you come into a whole new world here? What are you going to do? Well, what you will do is going to be based on your knowledge and what your practice has been. And so that's why we have these interviews, is to educate people as to what to expect when they come out of that, when they come out of the valley of death. You see, so again, that's our point. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I point fingers at me because of my lack of knowledge, all these kind of things. I'm not pointing fingers at other people, but I'm trying to share enough information that they might have a better perspective on what ought to be done, as we say in equity, and what can be done. So that's pretty much the message all along that I've tried to portray to people, and then try to give it education and information on various things that might be productive as they start this new world that they're coming into. So that's really, my point, and pretty much all I need to say.
Well, it's a wonderful message, Winston. Thank you. Because here we're at that point. There's no question we're at that point. And yeah. We're literally, entering a new year. So that's really an incredible and very appropriate in so many ways statement, message that you had for our viewers today. And, I just thank you. I'm sorry we didn't get to, complete all this, but there's always next time. We'll talk a little bit more, maybe you'll share that with us next time a little bit more.
We might. We'll see what happens. We didn't really
get to finish this, yeah, but I know it's very important, but it's very true. It's going to be interesting, Winston, to see how all this folds out and pans out. But, I just wanted to tell you that, I want to ask you, so you have any special plans for the new year, or are you just
go to bed early? That's what I'm going to do.
Go to bed early. Yeah. So, I don't know. Do you make resolutions? Do you make New Year's resolutions, or?
Yeah, one time I did. I've been reading, studying, that said that beer was good for your health, and somebody that drank one beer a day would be healthier. So I made the resolution one New Year's that I would drink one beer every day. That lasted about January the 2nd. I couldn't stand that stuff. So
no more resolutions.
No more resolutions. They don't work out too good.
Yeah, they really don't, do they? But
the best resolution would be to make a resolution, never to make another New Year's resolution.
There you have it. I think you're right, Winston. I think that's the best one. Well, I just want to remind our viewers that, we want to wish all of you a very happy New Year, a safe happy New Year too. And we are in that birthing stage and Valley of the Shadow of Death. I'll tell you, that is a psalm I know quite well. And we are, at the precipice of this new paradigm, this new age that's dawning, and we do have to take more responsibility for ourselves and not be thinking the government and everybody else is going to take care of us. So
that's right.
The more informed we are, the more we can make an effect collectively. But you have to realize that we're in this together, and yes, we have to take care of our families, but we're in this together. We have to do what's right collectively. And we have to realize we've been socially engineered as sheep, and we need to cut it out, really. We got to stop this crybaby stuff because it's destroying our country. And I'm not talking about genuine rights that are being violated, but you can't always get what you want in life. That's just how it works. You can't sit there and cry about it and go out and riot, because you can't wear your pink hats on your head. I don't know. It's crazy. People I couldn't believe how crazy they get. It's probably some mind control involved in that too, though, Winston. Those frequency Gwen towers and things like that kind of making people a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, it's been a pleasure, Winston. What a year this has been, and I'm just so glad that you've been, doing country roads with me, and we're off to see what the new year brings us and good things.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Like I say, scriptures are very plain, about, if you've been given a talent or something like that, that if you don't multiply that talent, it'll be taken away from you.
We are in that birthing stage and valley of the shadow of death. I'll tell you, that is a psalm I know quite well. And we are, at the precipice of this new paradigm, this new age that's dawning. And we do have to take more responsibility for ourselves and not be thinking the government and everybody else is going to take care of us. So
that's right.
The more informed we are, the more we can make an effect collectively. But you have to realize that we're in this together. And yes, we have to take care of our families, but we're in this together. We have to do what's right collectively. And we have to realize we've been socially engineered as sheep, and we need to cut it out, really. We got to stop this crybaby stuff because it's destroying our country. And, I'm not talking about genuine rights that are being violated, but you can't always get what you want in life. That's just how it works. You can't sit there and cry about it and go out and riot, because you can't wear your pink hats on your head. I don't know. It's crazy. People I couldn't believe how crazy they get.